Inputting notes into Stochas is fairly straightforward, and many of you will recognize this grid system. We've got the notes here on the left, and then each column is a different step. To input any note, simply left-click on the cell that you wish to input the note into. In Stochas, you can change the length of each note, and to do so, as you can see, my mouse cursor, as I move to the end of this cell, or the end of this note, has changed to these two arrows. When you left click and drag, you can see it drags out this tail. So this is now going to play this note for this length of time, and I can add this to here and this one to here. To drag a step tail or the note length tail back, simply click on the end and drag it in. And as you can see, I've created 4 orange notes here with MED, the medium probability value. But I can increase that value by clicking and dragging up and inputting notes of a different probability factor. So I've got 2 high and 1 low. The high is a double the probability of a medium, and a low is a half the probability of a medium. And high to low is 4 times as likely as a low to be selected. So let's just have a listen to what this is going to play back. So as you can hear, it randomly selects, and it does factor in the probabilities that we've got here. Now, when you saw me clicking and dragging through, you'll see a C with 2 dashes either side. This indicates a chained note. This chain note will only be selected when there is a chain to that note. So unless you have gone into the Chains tab and set something up, this note will not play. For more information on that, check out the section of these videos about creating patterns with chains. As you can see, all the velocities here have been inputted at 90. But to change these, I simply click and drag up or down. I can also right click and send the value to 0. And I can also double click and I can jump the value or cycle the value through different settings. Moving on to the Shift tab, this is a time shift. As you can see here, I've got 2 notes that are shifted. So this note here is shifted 50% of a steps value forward in time. And this one is 50% of a steps value later in time. At the moment, this is set up for a 4/4 time signature, and we're using 16 steps per measure. So each of these has been moved a 32nd of a bar forward, and this one 32nd of a bar later. So let's just have a listen to that. So as you can hear, this one is playing early and this one is playing late. To remove any note that we've got in Stochas, you can simply right click on it, or you can click and drag all the way down. When you have a lot of notes in Stochas, you sometimes need to edit them in batches or with a selection. To do this, you can simply hold down the Shift key and click and drag over your selection. You then have some options by clicking on this edit button in the top right corner. You can have the option to clear, which will delete all of those cells that we've selected. Repeat to end of pattern. Now this will include blank spaces you see on the end here. So let me just show this as an example. I'll delete this cell here. Oops. And I will make this selection. Now if I go to Edit and repeat to End of Pattern, it will repeat that selection and is height and width dependent on your selection. So as you can see, this note that was above the position of that selection has remained, and my selection included this one empty step, and so it's copied that step, that empty step, and repeated that. So I've got some different probabilities here, and with these I want to turn them all to being high. So I make my selection, click the edit button, and then I use the adjust probability settings here. So you can adjust it by a relative amount, so you can halve it or double the probability, or you can set it to an absolute amount. And you can set it to low, medium, high, or never. Now these percentage values and on are for the polyphonic probability mode, which I'll come on to in a second. So now I'm going to set all of these to high. As you can see, the 4 low probability notes at the top here have now changed to a high probability. You can also batch select in the velocity tab. I've shift and dragged over this selection, and I can adjust my velocity by relative amount, so up and down by 50%, 25% or 5%, or I can set them to an absolute value. So I might want to set them all to 70. And as you can see, my selection has now changed to a velocity of 70.